Hey everyone, today is January 23rd, 2024. Welcome again to another short video courtesy of investingsuccess.ca. Today I want to introduce you to a pivotal figure from the history of mathematics. His name was Arthur Schuster. Born in Germany, educated partly in the UK, partly in Germany, spent the latter years of his scientific career in the UK. And he is remembered as the mathematician who gave us something called the periodogram analysis technique. So, what Schuster realized was if you take a series of observation, a series of data points over time, and after all, isn't that what stock charts are? Is a series of prices plotted on a graph over time. Except Schuster didn't really focus on the stock market per se. He was focused on other natural phenomenon. And in the late 1800s, he was the first guy to disprove the claim that earthquakes occurred on a regular periodic basis. He said no, they did not. He looked at occurrences of earthquakes around the world, plotted everything on a graph, used his periodogram mathematical calculations, and he said no, earthquakes are not a regular repeating occurrence. However, he took a look at sunspot occurrences, and he is actually the guy credited with the observations that sunspots do occur on a regular repeating interval of about 11 years. Now, fast forward to today. The periodogram function is available quite often on financial market platforms. So I use the Optima software program, pioneered in Australia, and it actually comes equipped with the periodogram function, and it allows me to look at a stock chart, a commodity price chart, and it allows me then to determine roughly what the underlying cycles are in the data that comprise that stock chart or that commodity chart. So here's an example. This is wheat futures, Chicago wheat, and it's a daily chart. And you can see that when I apply the periodogram function, it's telling me that they're somewhere embedded in all of this wheat data going back decades. The software is saying that there's uh, a cycle that's about 1,876 days in duration. It's finding another major cycle of about 1,433 days. It's finding some smaller ones here and here and here, but it's finding another big one that's about 933 days. So good enough. That's really what I need. So then I go back and I find, decades ago, a significant high or a significant low. And I use the cycles tool that is also part of the Optima program. And I say, all right, from that significant starting point, let's see if we can identify cycles that are 933 days or 1433 days, and then I break them down further into individual subcycles that are a multiple of the larger cycle. I move things around a little bit and I try to make sure, and it doesn't take much effort because this is pretty accurate. And once I start this, I will end up noticing that the end of these cycles generally aligns to some significant price highs or lows. And then from that, I'm able to peek into the future a little bit and I ask myself, okay, when is the next either major cyclical low or the next subcycle low point? And I just wait for that to get a little bit closer, and then I start contemplating, is there a buying opportunity at hand here? So, in the case of the wheat futures, Chicago wheat, what I'm finding or anticipating here is there's going to be some kind of a cyclical event coming up early April, which is not that far away. in the next 2.5 months or so. So I'm going to be very alert to what wheat is doing. And you can see on this chart that the price of wheat has just been getting absolutely hammered. And it's not just wheat, it's corn, it's soybeans, the whole soy complex. Here in Canada, we grow a lot of canola, and there's canola futures that trade. They've been getting just slaughtered. And this is not going to continue. A lot of farmers are saying in their gut feeling is that the bottom has got to be near. Well, they're actually right, because the mathematical analysis says that we're probably a couple months away from a bottom. Now, let's suppose that you are not predisposed to trading commodity futures. Let's say that you are more inclined to look out for individual stocks. Well, when I drive around in southern Saskatchewan where I live, I see all sorts of large farm equipment putting crops in and harvesting crops in the fall. And it's interesting to learn that the entire agricultural implement industry really has consolidated over the past decade or so. And of course, John Deere is the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and their green colored equipment is rather ubiquitous where I come from. But I'm also seeing equipment that's red in color and equipment that's yellow in color. I'm also seeing seeding equipment made by a brand called FlexiCoil, which is actually made in Saskatchewan, not too far from where I live. What I didn't realize up until just a few minutes ago, all of this yellow and red and FlexiCoil type equipment, that is owned by an Italian company and manufactured obviously in locations around the world. But here's two major companies, both with a presence on the New York Stock Exchange, that largely control the making and the selling of agricultural equipment. And so if I take a chart then of Deere and Company, here it is, daily chart. I use I'm looking then for the same kind of cycles that I was looking for on the wheat. And sure enough, the periodogram analysis helps me along. And the next thing you know, I'm identifying that later this summer, like in about August, there should be a cyclical low that comes in on John Deere and Company. And you can see what the price is doing. We made a high back in 2022. We made another peak early in 2023. We challenged it midway through 2023. I mean, there's some serious overhead resistance here. And look at what's happened every time we hit that resistance. The price goes down, the price goes down, the price goes down. So yeah, I am not going to be shocked if there is a cyclical bottom that comes later this summer, and it could be an interesting buying opportunity on John Deere. Now, the other thing, and I mentioned earlier that farmers have this gut visceral reaction as to what's going on. All I have to do right now is look outside my office window. There's a major John Deere dealership in the small town where I live here in Saskatchewan. For the first time in around about 3 years, I'm starting to see brand new combines sitting outside in their storage yard, which tells me that the leases on existing equipment are probably coming due, and the dealership is already getting the new equipment in, getting it set up, getting it tested, fine-tuned, ready for delivering to the farmer. So again, there's some empirical evidence that perhaps a cycle low is coming on the John Deere stock, and that ties in then with the cyclical low on wheat and corn and soybeans and what have you. So get ready for something this summer on John Deere. The ticker symbol on New York is DE. Now let's take a look at the Italian company that I said owns the red colored and the yellow colored and the FlexiCoil equipment. CNH Industrial, trades on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol CNHI. And if I do a similar cyclical analysis, I'm finding some very interesting behavior on this thing. And again, I'm seeing a sub-cycle low coming at us this summer. Now, for people who like to trade and not use a whole lot of money, take a look at the share price of the ADR format shares that trade in New York. I mean, you're going to get these for in that $10 to $12 range. So perfect. If there wants to be a cyclical low this summer, maybe it gets down into that $8 or $9 range and starts to claw its way back. There is going to be some very interesting trading money to be made using not a whole lot of capital. So CNHI is the ticker symbol on CNH Industries. Now you'll notice one thing. So far in this video, I have not yet even mentioned astrology. I will start looking into the astrology of both of these companies, and all I need is that first trade date, and I'll find that. And I will see how the astrology then can help me fine-tune the time frame for this cyclical low. The cyclical analysis is showing potentially August. Well, let's just see what the astrology says. So here's an example, and I keep reinforcing this in all of my writing and all of my blogging and podcasting. You cannot blindly just rely on astrology. You have to use other things. Cyclical periodogram analysis is one. We've got the quantum lines. We've got various other heliocentric planetary intervals. It's all outlined in the Financial Astrology Almanac. So you tend to have to take it all together. And then, of course, always take a look at daily and weekly charts. Take a look at trend indicators like stochastics. Take a look at your true strength index. And sort of tie everything together and give yourself as much evidence as you possibly can as you search for the trend turning point and these cyclical lows. All right, that's it for me. Don't forget to visit me as usual at investingsuccess.ca. Astrology letter, cycles report, and I'm currently on to some new material. I've recently come across the material of a German-American personality. His name was Georg Bayer. His Americanized name is George Bayer. And in my letters these days, I'm actually outlining for my subscribers the models and the rules actually that Bayer came up with. And he was prominent back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, the same time as Gann and McWhirter and Evangeline Adams and all of those notable personalities. It's just that Georg Bayer didn't advertise himself or publish himself as aggressively as a W.D. Gann. But his work is out there and slowly being rediscovered. And I can tell you that some of these so-called rules that he identified in the 30s and 40s, wow, they still apply today. So he was definitely onto something, and I am making it a point now to write about him and to talk about him. You'll find me on Substack, of course, and I'm actually thinking about putting together a new course on udemy.com where I strictly talk about Georg Bayer and his multitude of rules. Financial Astrology Almanac, yeah, you'll find it on Amazon. Go to your local bricks and mortar bookstore if you want. They can order it in for you. And then Follow the Trend is my other one, which tells you when to buy, when to sell, and how to understand and interpret these various trend following indicators that these various software programs have. Okay, so that's it for me. So keep your eyes open then for, in the next short while, a pending cyclical, sub-cyclical low on the agricultural commodities. And then that is going to tie in very nicely to what I think is going to be a sub-cycle low on the corporations that manufacture the farm implements for seeding and harvesting. Okay, y'all, have a great day, and thank you kindly for watching this video, and we will talk again real soon. Cheers.